I thought I had it all. A beautiful wife, a stable job, and a home filled with love. But life has a cruel way of showing you who truly stands by your side when things get tough. My wife, Lisa, had always been the outgoing, charming type, the kind of woman who could command a room with a single glance. I adored her, and maybe that was my mistake. It started with little things: the late nights at work, the sudden obsession with her phone, the way she'd get defensive when I asked innocent questions. I ignored the signs, convincing myself that I was overthinking. I chalked it up to stress, a rough patch in our marriage, something that would pass. After all, we had been together for 8 years. That kind of bond doesn't just break, right? But the truth has a way of slapping you in the face when you least expect it. One night, I got a message from an unknown number. "Check the hotel on Main Street, room 306. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the screen. Who would send me something like that? My first instinct was denial. Lisa wouldn't do this to me, to us, to the life we built together. But my gut told me I needed to see for myself. I drove to the hotel, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Every scenario ran through my head. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Lisa really was working late. But deep down, I already knew. When I arrived, I hesitated outside the door, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I could turn back. I could pretend I never got the message, go home, and keep living in blissful ignorance. But then I heard it, Lisa's laughter. That sweet, familiar sound that used to fill our home with warmth. Now it was tainted. I peeked through the small opening in the door, my breath catching in my throat. There she was, tangled in another man's arms, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked happy,
Carefree.
as if I had never existed. I didn't storm in.
No.
That would have been too easy. I turned around and walked away, my heart turning cold with every step. Lisa had no idea, but this was the moment she lost me forever. I didn't confront Lisa right away. That would have been too easy, too merciful. Instead, I let her continue digging her own grave while I prepared my revenge. I played the role of the clueless, devoted husband, all while secretly gathering proof. Bank statements, hidden transactions, messages, even hotel records. I collected everything I needed to expose her for what she truly was. I set up a small hidden camera in our bedroom, just in case she ever got bold enough to bring her affair partner home. I wasn't going to act on emotion. No, I was going to be patient. Lisa was an expert liar, but I had learned to see through her. She would come home late, claiming she had extra work to do at the office. Sometimes, I'd casually ask her what project she was working on, and she'd give some vague answer, her eyes darting away as if she were afraid I'd catch her in a lie. Other times, she'd be glued to her phone, smiling at messages she would never let me see.
She thought she was smarter than me. She thought I was weak.
Then came the breaking point. One evening, Lisa came home drunk, stumbling through the door with a smug grin on her face. She plopped down on the couch next to me, reeking of perfume that wasn't hers. I stayed quiet, waiting to see what she would say. She laughed, shaking her head. "God, you're such a loser," she slurred, looking at me like I was something beneath her. "You'll never be enough for me." I felt something snap inside me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. That was the moment I stopped loving her. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had sacrificed for, had become someone who looked at me with nothing but contempt. And I had spent months tolerating it, trying to salvage something that had died long ago. I was done. That night, while Lisa passed out in bed, I put my plan in motion. I had been offered a lucrative job in another state, something I had kept to myself because I had foolishly believed Lisa was part of my future. But now, that opportunity was my way out. The next day, I met with a lawyer to finalize the transfer of all our joint assets. Lisa loved bragging about her car, even though I was the one making the payments. It was now legally in my name alone. The house? I sold it. Well, Technically, I transferred ownership to my best friend for a fraction of its value, with a contract that allowed me to buy it back whenever I wanted. Our shared bank account? I drained it, legally moving every cent into my personal account, the one Lisa had no access to. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to take everything she took for granted and leave her with nothing. A week later, Lisa came home to an empty closet. My clothes were gone. The drawers, the nightstand where I kept my things, even my cologne, everything of mine had disappeared as if I had never lived there. At first, she didn't notice. She was too busy scrolling on her phone, no doubt messaging the man she had thrown our marriage away for. But then she walked into the bedroom and froze. "Where are your things?" she muttered, confusion creeping into her voice. She checked the bathroom, then the hall closet, and finally, the office. Panic started setting in. She grabbed her phone and called me. I let it ring. She called again. And again. I finally picked up on the fourth ring, keeping my voice calm. "Where are you?" she demanded. "What's happening?" I smiled, even though she couldn't see me. "Oh, I finally decided to take your advice, Lisa. This loser is moving on." Silence. I could hear her breathing, rapid and shallow. "What do you mean, moving on? You can't just leave." "Oh, I can," I said smoothly. And I did. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, scrambling to figure out what was happening. "Let's just talk," she said quickly, her voice suddenly softer. I don't know what's gotten into you, but we can fix this." I laughed, shaking my head. "Fix what, Lisa? You mean the way you've been sneaking around behind my back? Or the way you came home and called me a loser while you were drunk on another man's attention?" She gasped. You were spying on me? Wouldn't have needed to if you hadn't been so obvious." Another silence. Then she changed tactics. "Look, I was drunk. I didn't mean anything I said. You're twisting this into something it's not." I sighed. "Lisa, I saw you with him. In the hotel. Room 306. She sucked in a sharp breath. I let that sit between us, let her understand that she had lost all control. Finally, she whispered, "We can work through this. Please, I made a mistake." A mistake. That's what she was calling months of deceit, disrespect, and manipulation. I had wasted enough time on her. "Good luck, Lisa," I said. Then I hung up. I blocked her number and drove away, leaving her to deal with the consequences of her own choices. I knew she would come looking for me, but by the time she did, it would be too late. I had already taken everything she valued, just as she had taken everything I once believed in. Lisa showed up at my office 2 days later. I saw her through the glass doors, pacing anxiously, her face pale. She looked nothing like the confident, smug woman who had once called me a loser. Now she was desperate. I waited a moment before stepping outside. She rushed toward me, eyes wide and pleading. "We need to talk," she said breathlessly. I crossed my arms. "I don't think we do." Her hands trembled as she reached for me, but I took a step back. "Please," she whispered. "I messed up. I was selfish. I wasn't thinking clearly. But you can't just leave like this. We built a life together." I raised an eyebrow.
"Did we?"
"Because I remember you building something with someone else in room 306. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I was stupid. I didn't mean any of it. I got caught up in something I thought I wanted, but I don't. I just want you. Please, we can fix this." I almost laughed at the irony. Lisa had spent months treating me like I was beneath her, yet now she was begging for my forgiveness. She had underestimated me, believing I would always be there, always waiting for her no matter how many times she betrayed me. "I don't think you understand," I said calmly. "There is no us anymore, Lisa. You made sure of that." She shook her head frantically. No, we can work through this. Just come home. We can talk." "Home," I interrupted. "You mean the house I sold? The car that's no longer yours? The bank account you can't access anymore?" Her face twisted in horror. What did you do?" I smiled. "I made sure you got exactly what you deserved. You threw me away like I didn't matter, so now I'm giving you the same courtesy." She sobbed, shaking her head. I was wrong, okay? I was stupid and cruel, but I love you. I don't want to lose you. I took a deep breath, looking at the woman I had once loved. Lisa, you lost me a long time ago. You just never realized it until now. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there in the mess she had created. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I felt free.